Aloha, welcome to the Live Ukulele podcast. My name is Brad Bordessa. This episode, I'm talking to Marc Gallagher out of the UK, an interesting dude, a great songwriter, and we had an interesting discussion that I am looking forward to sharing with you folks. If you missed the last episode or didn't listen all the way through, the new schedule for the Live Ukulele podcast is the first Saturday of every month. Instead of twice a month, it's now going to be a once a month podcast, just to free up a little bit of extra editorial time to get things together and make sure that I am continuing to bring high quality content to the podcast instead of scrambling. And I already got some cool stuff lined up for this year that I'm looking forward to. But I've been spending a lot of time working on updating Groove Ukulele and bringing it to a web format. It was an ebook before with some supplementary videos, but there are enough videos and they're good videos, and there's so much other content to share that I think can be utilized in a web page format that I'm bringing the whole thing over onto the website. So you work through it kind of like course pages, but more readable. It's like an interactive ebook, I guess. It looks great. It's beautiful. I can extend things beyond the margin because there isn't a fixed page size, and it can scale depending on your screen. So if you're on desktop, you can see some things bigger, but you can also look at it on your phone if you want. But Groove Ukulele basically is my system for strumming. I always see people talking about, how do I strum? What's the strumming pattern? I feel like my strumming is robotic. Yada yada. There's all kinds of mystery and problems surrounding strumming specifically. And so much of it comes from the fact that people are looking at strumming patterns first, and they move their hand according to the strumming pattern they found without any regard for where their hand is in relation to the timing of the music. So what Groove Ukulele does is it attempts to link your hand to the rhythm so that when you play your strum pattern, your hand is moving in a certain direction, so you're naturally accenting things where they should be accented. And by moving your hand on a steady eighth note pattern, down, up, down, up, down, up, the locations where you make your strums, like if you're strumming two down strums in a row, your hand automatically has the up strum built in there. You just miss on the way by. And so to me, putting this timing first, hand momentum first system into place, it tends to get a lot better results because you're thinking about the music and the timing before you're thinking about the strum pattern and the directions of the strum. Because if it doesn't groove, if it doesn't match with the timing scale of the song, then what's the point, right? So many people lose the rhythm in order to play a strumming pattern, and that is the complete opposite of what should be happening. And so we talk about the basics of locking that in, but then there's also components where we'll talk about like feeling emphasis and being able to create your own strumming patterns and dissecting some strumming patterns that already exist and listening for the signature things that make those work and how to figure those out on your own. So if you're feeling like your strumming is a little bit lacking, you feel like just looking up strumming patterns isn't cutting it, and you want to understand the timing behind it, how to have a more steady momentum when you're playing rhythm, check out Groove Ukulele on liveukulele.com/store. You can find it there. If you already have it, you can log into your account and go to the Groove Ukulele page. And if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see I've got kind of a work in progress list of the pages that I'm working on converting over and updating. If you want to get a little preview, see what it looks like, send me some feedback, that would be great. I'd love to hear your thoughts, because for me, it seems like I love the web world, right? I build websites. I am proud of Live Ukulele. It's fast, it's easy to use. And to me, it just makes sense to have the live version of the content on a web page. It's interactive. You can include the videos and the audio and the images, and, easily include SVG vector images of like all the musical notation. So it's like perfect quality no matter what size it is. It's great. I hope you like it too. That's Groove Ukulele, and that's what I've been working on. We'll see when the kind of re-release is going to happen. I'm not sure yet, but in the meantime, we're cooking. All right, Marc Gallagher is based in the UK. He's a multi-instrumentalist but focuses on the ukulele. You can check him out, marcgallaghermusic.com. That's Marc, M-A-R-C Gallagher. Gallagher. Support his music on Bandcamp. And without further ado, here's Marc Gallagher. All right. Great. Well, thanks for joining me. Can we... I don't know. Was looking at your website, trying to, get an idea a little bit who you are, and saw that you started playing music early, and you have a ton of instruments in your bag. Can you kind of bring us up to speed of how you got to the ukulele specifically?
Yes, I got to ukulele. It started out, piano's my first instrument. I was about 11 or 12 when I first started playing that. Then the following year, 2010, I got a guitar. I started getting into that. And then it was like that sort of tail end of 2010, early 2011 was when I decided to start branching out a bit further. And it was... I bought a bass because I wanted to fill a role in a band, and I was at this guitar fair and I saw a ukulele. It was £20, which must be like $30. It was super cheap. And my logic was, well, I know the concept of holding chord shapes and strumming, so it's just an easy way to say, oh, I can play an extra instrument. So that's how it started. It was like late 2010, early 2011 when that started. And basically, for me, I was mainly gigging as a guitarist in a duo. And during this time, the guitar would stay in its case and it would come out for 2 hours when I'd play the gig. And then I'd go back in its case and that would be it. So the ukulele was like my fun instrument. That was what I would play at home recreationally. So when the duo ended and I needed to reestablish and rebrand myself as a solo act, the main thing was it was a combination of let's play the fun instrument. I was doing a lot of open mic nights at the time, so it was if there are 4 guitarists and 1 ukulele player, I've got a reason to stand out. And I liked the challenge of challenging people's perceptions on what the ukulele could do. But additionally, I also liked the idea of I walked around Manchester town centre a lot, and it was just easier to carry, quite honestly.
So what was your perception of the instrument? You talk about challenging perceptions, but for you in the UK, what was your perception at that time of the instrument? You picked it up and thought it was good enough, so I assume you weren't coming from any negative stereotypes.
Okay, so challenging perceptions is in the sense of, in the modern day, globally, I think, when one hears of the ukulele, the first kind of songs they're thinking of is I'm Yours and Riptide. And they're good songs, and people do good covers of them. I do good covers of them at the gigs when I do them. However, most of my gigs nowadays, I take audience requests because it makes it more fun for me. And whenever someone requests those songs or Over the Rainbow by Israel Kamaka Viva Ole, I cry a little bit inside when those same songs come. Because I play other instruments as well. A good way to liken it is I play saxophone and I cry a little inside when someone asks for Careless Whisper or Baker Street. It's that kind of, come on, be more imaginative. But the other perception of the ukulele in the UK especially, George Formby was incredibly popular in the 30s to 50s, and his legacy still is very much apparent today around the older generation, people 50 years older. They will frequently ask for Leaning on a Lamppost or When I'm Cleaning Windows at these pub gigs, and it's that's really not the kind of music I'm here to play. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about the perceptions that I'm trying to challenge. But additionally, I was lucky enough to grow up musically speaking, in with the ukulele world, with a club band that basically did rock and blues on uke and no Formby. So it was really nice that I kind of had that good grounding anyway.
That's cool. It's just fascinating to me how we have this instrument, and I'm I'm in Hawaii, so I have my own perceptions of it, which are, probably closer to the roots of when it first popped out. And then it's made its way around the world, and everybody has come to it at a different point and with a different set of influences. And then it's such a big deal, in England. And then, yeah, it's just fascinating to see how it's grown over time.
Yeah, with the ukulele, its influence is far-reaching, and it surprises me like how little like the music of George Formby is known. Not necessarily like stateside, but even in Europe. So mainland Europe. I'm lucky enough that I've played festivals in a bunch of different countries, in like Germany, Austria, Poland, and George Formby is very much a non-factor except for like the sickos, as today's kids would say. But yes, so perceptions are quite vastly different, and it's fascinating when I do go to these other countries and see the ways in which these different cultures kind of put their stamp on it. Like I got really fond memories of 2019. I was traveling in mainland Europe, and there was a Cologne city in Germany. They had a ukulele group, and frequently they would do songs in Kölsch, the Cologne dialect of German, which is a bit similar to Dutch. And it was interesting hearing those songs, but also equally, I would go to like Czech Republic in a little village near Prague, and their clubs, what they would do is they play songs, like pop songs, like These Boots Are Made for Walking, but they would translate lyrics into Czech. And I found that fascinating as this way of still keeping like their own cultural footprint in something, even if they were taking it from the West. And that's something I found really fascinating in terms of the different perceptions and approaches to the instrument.
But it seems like you have really leaned into like the professional musician thing and hustling as much as you can. At what point did you decide that was the path for you? Was that something from the beginning? You were like, I want to be a professional musician?
So around about the age of 14, I wanted to be a teacher in like high school or something, teaching music or maths or what have you. And then when I got into sixth form, which is when I was about like sort of 17, 18, it preps you to go to college, university to get your degree. And because my school sixth form was the same as like my high school, what that meant was I kind of got to see some of these same teachers, but in more specialized, smaller classrooms. And during that time, I kind of realized that children are dicks.
Oh, yes.
They can just be quite awful. And so I wanted to work in the music industry in some formal fashion. And then my fascination came in the form of audio engineering. During my time in high school, I would use the school's recording studio to record some projects during lunchtime. And it was during this that I would be asking question after question, like, what's this kind of microphone? Why have you got these panels around me? What are they doing? What is this going on? What is that you're doing here? And I was asking question after question. I got so into audio engineering that I did that as like a specialism when I went to sixth form, and I learned so much using my school studio there. And my goal was to be a live touring sound engineer. So I went to university. I got a degree in studio and live music production. However, during that process, for me, I did gigs as a musician on the side in the same way that someone would be a bartender or a waiter. It was that kind of side hustle for me. And then it got to the point in my second and third year where I was making enough to pay the rent. So I just kept doing it. And that's mainly what happened. And that's how I ended up sustaining a living with people paying me to go and play and sing for them instead of necessarily me being behind a sound desk, which I'm still comfortable with. It's just I know that during my time in university, I didn't necessarily want to do the same things as my fellow students were doing. It's very common practice for students to go to like a lot of these venues that would regularly have live music, and they'd be asking the same questions to the house engineers about, hey, can I shadow for you? And then they might get something, and that might lead on to something else and something else. But my logic was I didn't want to add to that noise and be just another one of those same 30 people asking those same questions to this same small pool of like house engineers. So, as it's been, I graduated in 2018, so it's been so many years now that I can't necessarily start again in the audio field from a live perspective. I can't necessarily start working with a touring company without being expected to start pushing boxes for no money. And I'm full-time now in my music career, so I can't like sacrifice that to get like unpaid internships and what have you. But that's how my music career kind of developed. It was just initially me trying to earn a little something on the side, and it just kept going and I didn't stop. And it was really nice that once I graduated, my degree result I didn't pass with flying colors, but what was really reassuring to me was that a month after I graduated, I was still gigging full time, whereas my fellow students who got first class degrees, so they passed very well, they moved back in with their parents. I felt very much a victory there.
So I assume you produce and engineer all of your own stuff.
Pretty much. The only exception was 2019. I did an album called Songs from a Happy Winter. So it would have been like just after, a year or so after I had graduated. And my logic in uni was I didn't make a home studio because what was the point in me making a home studio when the uni itself has incredible facilities? So I utilized what we had there. And then I liked having the process of doing a week in a studio where I could just be the artist and have the artist hat on. But because of my background and knowledge, me and the engineer could still talk the same language. And that made for quite a pleasant experience. But, since then, I've basically been producing all my own stuff in my little home studio, which is it's funny because about 2 years ago I moved into this house, and naturally the largest bedroom there is like, this is the studio space, has to be music. And then my bedroom could be whatever, I don't care, just stick a bed or wardrobe in there, I'll be fine. But like the studio, I put in a lot into it and it's quite fun.
Excellent. And you're running Pro Tools?
Yeah.
You must be an audio engineer graduate.
Yes, I am, because it's what I learned on, and I don't have any problems with other DAWs. I spent some time with like GarageBand when I had my first MacBook, and I also did a favor for a uni lecturer, and I got a free copy of Cubase. So I've got some experience in that, but yeah, I use Pro Tools because it's just what I learned on. It's what I know best. It just sucks that I have to pay that annual subscription.
Yeah, it's kind of a lot these days.
God, yeah, it's something like £250. I imagine it's like $300 or something a year, which is not a fun part of April.
Awesome. Well, I can't help but kind of get the impression from seeing your performances on YouTube and stuff and seeing you on social media that you seem like possibly one of the least stiff ukulele players. I mean that in the best of ways, where you're kind of very vulnerable and I guess transparent about who you are. I notice a lot of ukulele players seem to, and just like ukulele culture, like it's very inclusive and good vibes. but at the expense of maybe people not being completely transparent. And you seem to bring a lot of the transparency.
Yeah, that's a good point to make. I've had some criticisms in the past that I can be a bit negative, and to be fair, I guess it's just because I'm British. I love a moan. I just love to complain sometimes, and like. Additionally, it's important for me to stand up for some of my beliefs in certain social issues, socio-political issues occasionally, and standing for the rights of others and things that irritate me. And it's important that I shed some of a light on this. So recent examples that I can kind of like speak towards are I caused something of a shitstorm in. Are we allowed to swear on this?
Yeah, go for it.
Good. I caused a shitstorm on social media in a music theory Facebook group because I was citing that inspired from a video by Adam Neely called Music Theory and White Supremacy. I don't advertise that I teach music theory as a blanket term, but I teach Western music theory because like there are other systems that exist, and I don't want to try and suggest that the system that we have grown up in is necessarily the one and only thing. And I caused a lot of discussion there. And I like talking about these kinds of issues because it's important to maintain that transparency and to maintain that I am not necessarily just a brand, but also a person. And by having feelings and showing that I have feelings that vary across a spectrum of different kinds, it hopefully establishes some additional connection for people and the stuff I do, as well as the content that I put out.
So to go back to the music theory thing, you're talking that music theory could also include like Eastern musics and things like that, and by labeling it Western music theory, you're not speaking for somebody who's playing sitar in India.
100%. So okay. Northern Indian classical music is a great example. And yes, when I was in high school, I got taught like some rags, and that was great. But, and I'm glad that there's starting to be some introduction of this with the likes of James Hill's recent Raga Layli contributions and books, which I love. But yes, there are other kinds of theory systems. There's, as well as that, there's also some like Japanese classical music theory, which operates in its own system, where its approach to like the pentatonic scale is vastly different from how we would necessarily do that in not the UK, in Western music that was influenced mainly from like the harmonic stylings of European musicians, German, Polish, and Austrian musicians. Like, additionally, there are also like certain pedagogies of music that stem from certain African traditions. There's one school of music where they heavily prioritize like dancing ability because of, you know, the inherent rhythmical aspects of it. So to your point, I'm not trying to speak for our system as encompassing of all music theory systems, and that's why I advertise that I teach Western music theory, because I acknowledge my limitations in some of these other areas, and I don't want to erase those.
And that rubbed people the wrong way?
Oh, absolutely. It rubbed people the wrong way because it was words to the effect of, because I said the title of the video I was inspired by, Music Theory and White Supremacy. They're like, oh my God, well, you're making it about race. And they're calling me things like snowflake, and it popped off. And I ended up getting banned from the group, which was quite an alarming sign. Yeah, it was a whole thing. And it's funny because I've done this kind of thing before on Facebook groups, especially like when talking about certain racial issues. 2021 was a great example where I asked in good faith of recommendations of Black ukulele players, because at the time I could only think of like 4 Black people who played ukulele: Michael August in the States, N in the UK, and then 2 celebrities in Dwayne Johnson and Barack Obama. And I was like, I've been playing ukulele for 10 years. It's a problem that I can't think of anymore. And I had some really good answers to that, but also there was a lot of pushback, a lot of why have you got to make it about race? Why it can't good music just be good music? And like the end of that, basically, I caused the Facebook group Ukulele Underground to get deleted. So I like talking about things that are really important besides just the usual ukulele group flair, like, here is my cover of I'm Yours. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, that's why I've always been so bored with like the ukulele, the thing, air quotes, the thing that ukulele presents itself as, is it's kind of boring. There's not a lot of room for debate. Like, we'll argue about strings until, the sun goes down, but then like the actual things that, I guess, like the social, cultural things that music can bring to the table has never really been embraced by the ukulele community, it seems like. Whereas like rock and roll or punk or blues, like so much of that is a vessel for a lot of those things.
I feel like what you're saying, and I hope I've parsed it correctly, it feels like a lot of the discourse we see about ukulele is very surface level. There isn't that kind of like deeper discussion. And I am very much inclined to agree with that because, yes, I feel a similar kind of thing sometimes in online discourse. And it's why I like to share as much as I can. I'm a massive theory nerd, as me talking about an Adam Neely video and different music theory systems like will indicate. I'm a massive nerd about this. And I like to kind of show that the ukulele can be a part of a bigger system, a bigger thing where it has its own role in a larger band that is not necessarily full of ukuleles. And, I've watched a lot of your stuff, and I love the fact that you play with Kingside, and Kingside is not a ukulele band. It is a band with a ukulele in it, and that ukulele has an important role as and when it's needed. And I think that's really important. And it's good that we can get into some of the nerdy and nitty-gritty rather than just these surface level discussions about strings and what's your favorite type of scale ukulele to play and that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, it's great. And I've always felt like us talking about brand of the artist and things like that, but that a lot of folks are quite guarded.
I agree. There is, in terms of the brand of people, I can understand it from a professionalism standpoint to remain like neutral. But I think so many great forms of music and art have been through that expression of like not being neutral. Like the existence of like punk music as an example, that is a very anti-establishment kind of art form, and it would not be what it is without people choosing to not be safe. And for me, it's keeping that transparency. It's having a little complaint about things that do bother me sometimes, and showing that I'm a person besides just the brand that you see. I think it kind of also leads into the when you have like certain mean comments or mean tweets or whatever, and kind of responding and just being like, I do see these, and I am a human being with feelings, and sometimes the things you say, they have consequences, on how someone is like their mental state or how they are feeling and processing things. Yeah, I agree. It's really important to be transparent, not necessarily in like a showing how the sausage is made kind of thing, but like in a sense of how you, in the sense of you see like a finished product, like say a cover of a song, and what you don't see is the 50 failed takes before that one perfect thing. And it's the reminder that social media is inherently not real, because we're often like putting out our best forms of ourselves. And a great quote I heard about this was, you shouldn't compare your behind the scenes to someone else's greatest hits. That's a really important thing that I've tried to maintain. And I know that the app Be Real has somewhat died over the last couple of years, but when it was really in and everyone was just like showing their present and their moment, uneventful as it might be sometimes, it's still important to have some of that mundanity in, our online output. And that's what I do when I talk about music theory nerd things, I guess.
Well, and that it seems like that connects heavily to the teaching aspect, because on social media, if people are, seeing the 20th take of your cover on Reddit or whatever, that you just got it right that one time, and that's the one you posted. Those expectations are kind of getting skewed, and I noticed that people who are, learning and studying and practicing, they're super, super harsh on themselves because they think it's got to be a certain way. And I spend a lot of my time like, no, like just play something, play music, like just, loosen up and let it happen. Whereas everybody's always, tends to hold on so tight because it's not just perfect, or they get flustered. And yeah, it's an interesting kind of psychological hump, I think, that I really get a kick out of trying to help people over as a teacher, because it seems like one of the biggest roadblocks is like, you want to just play music, and by holding on to what you perceive as like music being perfect, the stuff you hear on the radio, the stuff you see on YouTube, like there's a big discrepancy between how you get there and, I guess it's just the journey, right? People don't necessarily see the journey.
You're completely right. It means a lot to have I guess, the wherewithal to realize that, for example, if you're watching a video or if you go to a gig and you see someone on stage, it's knowing it's like the iceberg effect. It's seeing we don't see all that went into what brought this person to this stage, all the rehearsal that it took, all the practice that it took. And sometimes practice can be mundane as hell. Sometimes it can just be going over various certain scale exercises and things of that ilk. It can be really dull sometimes. And it's remembering to put that work in. As for people getting flustered, the great kind of advice or thing I heard, which I pass on now, is Devin Scott in Kentucky at the ukulele festival there. He taught that it's better to make a mistake in your fretting hand than it is to make in your picking or strumming hand. Just because of whether you fret a chord wrong, you can still recover it easily enough if your strumming hand is still keeping the pace. Whereas once you hesitate, then you're taking everyone out the music. So I pass that one along a lot.
So what is your teaching schedule like versus gigging? Are you doing private lessons, or is it mostly workshop appearances?
Mostly for us as musicians, usually like weekends, Fridays to Sunday, we're fully occupied with trying to gig. And in my heyday, 2022 was probably my best year, where I was doing like 5 to 7 gigs a week, which was a bit insane. My weekdays are where I primarily teach, where I do private lessons on ukulele or bass or saxophone or guitar. I do teach. I'm mainly doing stuff in person in England, but also I do teach online. I've got a student whom I've known for about 5 years, and she lives in Chicago. So we meet through video call, basically every week, and it's wonderful. So yeah, I do. As for the workshops, those have been fantastic because of it was great advice that I had from Manitoba Hal way back in 2016 when I entered the ukulele scene. I'm sorry to be just dropping names here, but Hal, basically his advice was to make a workshop and have that and market that just so you could be an asset at festivals. And for someone who wanted to be a teacher growing up, it's nice that I do get to have that classroom experience now by teaching these workshops at clubs and at festivals. And those have developed where rather than some workshops I see which are often teaching a song or a couple of songs, I will approach my workshops a bit more like classes where it's like, no, I'm here to teach you shit. I'm here to give you ideas, which you can then transfer into your own playing. So that's some of the stuff I have. And those have then expanded into a couple of books that I had. So I probably a really good workshop that I had was Avril Taziggy, Mastering Musical Memory, which is about how I learned and memorized hundreds of songs and some of those strategies there. And I love the reception that I've gotten on my teaching, not just in the private lessons, which are incredible, but also the workshops I teach at festivals, which are unbelievably rewarding.
Nice. Teaching adults, though, kids are dicks.
Yes, teaching adults, though, because kids are absolute dicks sometimes. It's not necessarily just like yes, kids are dicks, but it's more like about the people who want to be there and they want to learn.
Totally.
And that was the issue that I had when it came to, that was the main issue that I had when I was in high school, because, some people, you'd have your music classes and of the 30 people there, only 5 are musicians and really care about it. And that was the main difference. And, so yeah, I don't mind teaching some younger people. It's just a case of having the desire to learn and to be wrong. And that's what really matters to me.
Yeah. No, I kind of had a rude awakening last year. I got looped in to teach at a private elementary school here. And up to that point, I've just been teaching workshops and private lessons. Adults who, pay big money to come to a workshop and they're excited and they're there because they want to be. And then you show up in a classroom of kids who are just doing their day and you're a speed bump in the middle of where they got to go. And yeah, you have a quarter of the classes interested and then the rest are pretty distracting. But it definitely forces you to learn. I've learned a lot of different teaching techniques and how to kind of steer things and keep them focused. Totally different skill set.
I'm really glad. I've not had that experience yet. And I mean, honestly, I don't want to have that experience yet. But I love the fact that you do have that and that you have learned from it and that you can maybe translate some of those ideas into other classroom teaching that you do outside of an elementary school.
Well, yeah, I think what I've learned is that it's very much more me driving the bus in that situation. It's like in an adult class, you have time to say what do you think? Or do you have any questions? Or let's open it up for discussion. And then everybody maybe has some input. But as soon as you do that in an elementary school, everybody's talking. so you got to kind of keep the ball rolling as much as possible with the kids.
No, I understand that completely. I did a workshop recently. I was teaching Salt and Pepper, Professional Ukulele Seasoning. It's where we go through a song that I do in my gigging life, Go Your Own Way by Fleetwood Mac, and I show 10 techniques that I genuinely do in my playing, and I walk through those. And basically, I had that experience because it was a small-ish room of 10 to 20 people, but some workshops you have some amplification, others you don't, and I was I really, my favorite part about that workshop that I gave was just, I guess, how well I controlled the class. And it was, singling out someone who was talking or playing in between stuff, and it was just no, these people are also here to learn and they need to be able to hear me properly. And I loved the fact that I was able to kind of just keep the ball rolling in that way, even when people could get excitable. Not necessarily as excitable as elementary school kids, but I digress.
Excellent. Well, are you equipped to play a song? Are you inclined to play a song? Share
100%.
Share a little bit of music?
Tenor or baritone.
Well, why don't you tell us why you would choose one or the other, and then your choice.
Yeah, I've got kind of 3 songs in mind. One of them is mainly one that I do on tenor. The other one is beautiful on baritone. So I just kind of had both of them prepared, just at the ready, just in case.
Yeah, whatever you're feeling.
Grand, I'll just go with my tenor for this song. This is a single that I put out a year or two ago called Border Crying. Sounds a little like this. I opened up a message saying we need to talk. Right then I knew the story, that you were ready to move on. You can't define what's missing, but you must make the move. You say you want to leave me, but why you can't seem to prove. But you don't want to lose me. I can't give you all of my time if we are not together. Can't give you life advice when my words just go through you. This love comes from one side, it puts me under pressure. You say you're bored of crying, I'm bored of crying for you. You're calling 2 months later, need me to lean upon. I'm putting on a brave face, but I am trying to move on. You know I'll always be there, we still talk every day. It's a tough situation, but you have made it this way. But you want me to stay. I can't give you all of my time if we are not together. Can't give you life advice when my words just go through you. This love comes from one side, it puts me under pressure. You say you're bored of crying, I'm bored of crying for you. Oh, I'm bored of crying for you. Oh, I see you calling again, and I know what's coming. The ship has sailed, but you are crying in an ocean. I won't answer this time. I've got to get my life in motion. Oh, gotta get my life in motion. Oh, I can't give you all of my time if we are not together. Can't give you life advice when my words just go through you. This love comes from one side, it puts me under pressure. You say you're bored of crying, I'm bored of crying for you.
Cool. When you're writing a song, what is your approach? Is it pretty consistent, or does it move all over the place?
So good question. And it's funny because I've not done any writing for about a year, because I went to a load of songwriting camps over the last few years, and that's where I got a lot of my recent single output from. So the process in that song was at one of these camps where I told the story of an ex of mine, and how the song's about like trying to manage that difficult point of remaining friends while not being in a relationship anymore. And I told the story, and then as I was doing that, one of the co-writers just kind of like threw like a bunch of lyrical ideas, and then I started rearranging and singing where appropriate, and then it just kind of developed from there. Otherwise, my approach is relatively consistent. It will start off with a bag of lyrical ideas that I have and motifs and things I want to write about. It will be me looking at my phone of various ukulele playing examples therein of, you know, ideas of, oh, this sounds like a cool riff. And I go through those, and then I start playing through something. I will hum something, and then I just start plugging words in. And then I extrapolate further meaning, and then the song kind of snowballs from there. That's probably the best way of thinking about like songwriting as a whole, is kind of, it is a snowball thing. It just takes a bit of something to get that initial bits of like formed ideas functioning as one unit.
And is the arrangement kind of coming together at the same time as the song, or do you have to, like, once you have the song, then decide like, okay, I'm going to go on stage and play this with just an ukulele and my voice? Like, do you make choices that will accommodate that, or are you thinking about that from the beginning?
Good question. And because the majority of my music is played live as a soloist, I mainly write with that, and then I treat the arrangement of something in recording. I never really consider that as I'm writing. I am thinking about how I make it sound and work best for me as a soloist, and then I treat the recording process as just a luxury that I can add other instruments to this without necessarily having to hire a whole band at a gig. So I just treat it like a bonus to have, oh, we can do some bass parts on this, but I'm never thinking about what the bass part is going to be as I'm writing the song.
Gotcha.
My other song that I had in mind was probably like the best thing that I think I've ever done as a musician. While the other song that I did, Border Crane, is like one of my favorite things as a piece of art and the way I express myself, this tune is just more important than that. It's a little song I wrote, kind of a letter to my younger self. I know how you're feeling. I've been there before. The world's just weighing you down, and you don't think you can take it much more. But I need you to listen. It's long overdue. Though it's hard to conceive these words, I know are true. You loved more than you'll ever believe. You'll bring joy even if you don't see it. No, it's hard to come by. There's a joy you'll feel. You'll find love and you're gonna lose it. The friends you make will ease the bruises. It sounds confusing, but soon it will be clear. I'm so glad you're still here. When you feel like a monster, no, it's all in your head. You have caused pain, but it's outweighed by all the good you bring. And that heart lies good intentions. Sometimes folks lose sight of that. But if you leave, they will grieve and bleed to bring you back. 'Cause you loved more than you'll ever believe. You'll bring joy even if you don't see it. No, it's hard to come by. There's a joy you'll feel. Savor your friends every moment near them. Words of support though you don't quite hear them. And in the morning I'll tell you with words sincere. I'm so glad you're still here. You matter, you matter. Even though you disagree, you matter. You matter. There's better days you're yet to see. You loved more than you'll ever believe. You'll bring joy even if you don't see it. And though it's hard to come by, there's a joy you'll feel. 'Cause you'll look back on your younger self and wish you knew how to go for help, to navigate when life is hard to steer. When times are hard, you'll persevere. And you see, after all these years, I'm so glad that you're still here. Cool. Thank you very much for indulging me in that. I appreciate that a lot.
No, thank you, man. That's a hell of a song. I saw that on your website earlier, and yeah, that one's pretty potent.
Thank you. Yeah, it's the best thing I've ever done in music. I'm glad to have made that contribution to the world.
How can people find your music? What's the best way for them to support you?
My music is best found on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you find or steal your favorite music. Marc Gallagher is my name, Marc with a C. Matter of fact, I recently, about a few years ago, I bought the domain name markwithac.co.uk to find my website, but unfortunately, Americans think that means Mark with air conditioning. So yeah, you can find me, Marc Gallagher Music, on your social media of choice, and yeah, I'll be posting pretty much every day of my YouTube, my Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And yeah, I've got my website for like everything else around me and the various things that I do. Unfortunately, as a creative, we kind of have to be not just an artist, we're also, function musicians and session guys. And also I do some photography and sound engineering and some other things of that ilk in the creative fields. But yeah, I'm available. Marc Gallagher Music, Mark with a C, and yeah, that's basically it for me.
All right. Well, to wrap up, will you share what you're excited about, looking forward to in the future? Anything on your mind? Projects?
Oh, that's a good one, because honestly, I'm going to lift another line from Manitoba Hal. I know what I'm doing today. I know what I'm doing tomorrow. Beyond that, I don't know. I have to check. So my thoughts are, like, I've had a good year. I've done things like written a couple of books, and those have done quite nicely. I've played a couple of festivals which have been really fun. Spending time in the USA, I did a festival in Pennsylvania. The next big, really exciting thing for me that I can think of off the top of my head is I am going to Canada for the first time. I'll be playing my 13th country, and it will be at in Brantford, Ontario, where I'll be playing their ukulele festival there, and I'm thrilled about that. Just putting all the logistical pieces together, but that's the next like big ukulele project that I've got. Otherwise, it's just continuing to follow my general happenings in the world of social media. The other thing I've got in my mind as well is that I've also got a goal to start streaming a little bit more. I've got a good like show which I do, but I've always been bad at like making routines. So the show I usually do is a thing called Random Song Generator, where my list is decided through a random number generator, and that picks a song for me about like, and people in the audience will comment like a number between like 1 and 900 or whatever. And it's great. But what I'm going to start do is next year, I want to start making it a thing where like every Monday I will be doing some kind of stream, whether it is a random song generator, whether it is a request show, whether it is me playing games like online chess, or whether it is, me trying to play other instruments like piano or saxophone on live stream. That's the kind of thing I'm mainly looking to expand a little more.
Have you done much live stream stuff in the past?
I've done a few. So I've just been unfortunately very inconsistent with my goal was to do like random song generator once a month, and I've probably only done that for like half of the year because I've just been generally bad at sticking to something unless I make it a routine. So the next big like project for me in the online space is going to be in how I like will just try and make a thing for every Monday night. I'm just going to stream and, have some kind of a presence.
Cool. I'll be curious to see how that comes together, because the whole streaming thing is very obvious for like gaming, but as far as music goes, I don't quite get it as much, but also I'm not tuned into that scene, so I don't really know, but it's intriguing, the idea of that.
I'm intrigued too. I've seen some good ones. Like, I like the stuff that James Hill did for Uketropolis, which is like once monthly, where he'd be going through various ukulele related topics. Or Christopher Davis Shannon also has a good one. He's been off that thing for a few months, but like he used to do like a stream where he'd like teach a song in about an hour. It's really good. So I think there is still like a room for it. I'd be approaching it less as a teacher and more just as a performing musician. You know, here are a bunch of songs, just, you know, trying to engage and do some additional kind of music playing that I wouldn't necessarily be doing like in the middle of the week. It's the kind of way I'm kind of approaching it.
Right on, Mark. Well, thank you so much for your time and sharing your thoughts. This has been great.
It's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for having me. It's nice to be able to talk to you more in depth after knowing you like sort of parasocially for the last few years. So I appreciate you having me on.
Mahalo to Mark for his time and insight. You can check him out, markgallaghermusic.com, M-A-R-C. And you can find his music on Bandcamp to best support his music. This is kind of the drum I've been beating lately, but as an independent artist, streaming typically does not make artists very much money. Spotify, in fact, does not pay licensing or anything to the artist on a song if it does not receive 1,000 streams in a year. And for a lot of us smaller artists, that's not going to happen. They do not pay unless you hit that threshold. So to even qualify for their pittance of a fee that they pay the artists, you have to meet that minimum threshold. And I've seen numbers upwards of 80% of the music on Spotify doesn't get paid out because it does not meet that minimum. So personally, I have yanked all of my music off of Spotify for that reason, and others, I know a lot of other artists are doing the same because it's just not worth it. Like, so what? I'm not going to get paid anyways. Like, is the exposure of a few plays a year really worth it? For myself, where I'm at as an artist, just kind of twiddling my thumbs, no, it's not. So I would rather, throw my weight behind kind of the movement of let's support artists as best we can. And the best way to do that is Bandcamp, in my opinion. There's a couple others that are also good, but Bandcamp is a really strong option for supporting independent artists. They only take a 15% fee for digital sales. So instead of only getting like a penny every 1,000 streams or whatever ridiculous number it is for Spotify, you get 85% of the money of a purchase, which is profound. And they also just released an anti-AI policy, so there is no AI content on Bandcamp or no completely AI-generated content on Bandcamp. It just feels good as an artist to see that a company is really trying and really connected to, taking care of us. So if you dig Mark's music, Bandcamp is the best way to support that music and to get the files and download that stuff directly. And you could stream it nonstop for many, many days, and the Bandcamp contribution would still far outweigh all the streaming royalties and fees. Anyways, that's the Live Ukulele podcast for February. Thank you for listening along. I'll see you next month on the first Saturday for a new episode of the Live Ukulele podcast. If you like what you hear, check out liveukulele.com. If you want to support what I'm doing here, check out liveukulele.com/store. Get hold of one of my lessons, courses, ebooks to further your ukulele learning. And you can become a member if you like. Members get access to some exclusive content, including the Play It By Ear series and basically what is a groove ukulele crash course. So if you're intrigued by the groove ukulele idea, but you don't want to jump in, you can check out a membership and see what the crash course has to offer and learn to play by ear better while you're there. My name is Brad Bordessa. Until next time, keep shining the light, play your ukuleles, love one another. Catch you next time. Ahui ho.